Princess Des. Princess? What? What is happening? Princess Des. Vex! Oh. He smiles when I turn and something in my stomach feels lighter. It's been a year since we first met. A year and 1 day and 22 hours to be precise, but who's counting? And still, I remember that day like it was only yesterday. All ready for the masquerade? So I'm currently in the past. Okay. Anyway, guys, I'm not exactly sure. I never am sure if there was a episode 3, but this is Rebooting. Hope you guys are doing well. Sorry to be so discombobulating with you. But if you don't remember where we're currently at, just kind of watch the last part or even watch the whole video of episode 2. But it seems like we're in a past event or a memory, and this is the guy we left off meeting in the alleyway, so I guess we are now being formally introduced. With a small nod, I gestured to my outfit, slightly gauging his reaction. I'd had one of the servants pick it out for me earlier, a young human who seemed to know a thing or two about the latest fashion. Vex nods in approval as he takes in my appearance, and I turn a little to let him get a glimpse of the entire thing. It isn't often I have an excuse to wear anything so fine. Being the youngest of the Peg's children, I'm often confined to one section of the palace and never invited to any of the royal functions, save the odd wedding or funeral. My gaze settles on him, nerves getting the best of me now that we're ready to leave, though he only smiles at me reassuringly. He's the only person who smiles at me at this place, the only one who even cares about my happiness, except for... Do you really think this is a good idea? What if someone recognizes me? One corner of his mouth tilts into that knowing smirk that I've come to look forward to every day, the one that makes it seem like he has a secret, something he wouldn't tell anyone but me. That's what the mask is for. Taking the lacquered mask from my hands, he steps slowly behind me, positioning it in front of my eyes and tying it by the rim and behind my head. I bite down on my lip, dread worming its way down my bones. He has so much to lose if we get caught as I do. Perhaps even more. My hand shakes at my side and Vex puts a reassuring hand on my shoulder to keep me still. We snuck out of the palace yesterday and into the city to visit that cafe you love so much, and still you're afraid of a little masquerade ball? I tilt my head slightly to make a face at him, wrinkling my nose to show that it's hardly the same thing. Yes, the city. Not right under my parents' noses for all to see. It's then that Vex steps in front of me, his fox-like face and sharp eyes facing me head-on, and a soft smile glancing his lips. Nothing bad will happen to you, Des, I promise. I trust you. I feel like if I pick these options, it's gonna cause a very odd triangle of sense, because if we remember clearly, I'm currently flirting with Damon, so I trust you. I know, I trust you. I should hope so, after all this time together. He grins, and it doesn't take long for me to return the gesture. He reaches out to smooth a wrinkle on my dress, his fingers so gentle when he touches me. I'll be by your side the entire time. I know he's telling the truth, and I trust him so much that the nerves start to settle, and I manage a small smile of my own. As a member of the Royal Guard, Vex Sheriff has sworn to protect my life against any danger that may befall me. But there's more than that, and he isn't just a guard. He's my friend. My only friend. Well, don't mess that up. We hold out an arm to take it, with renewed confidence, letting him lead me toward the secret passage off to the side. This passage comes out on the other side of the palace, just beside the large oil painting of my grandfather and the entrance to the library. There are many passages like this, and Vex and I have explored them all. I know I should feel guilty about this, disobeying a direct order from my parents to keep to the confines of the palace south wing, and instead running wild and unseen through the very depths of the place. Yeah, he's a bad influence. And with a member of the Royal Guard, no less. We're almost there. Vex squeezes my arm gently as we navigate through the dim passageway, and I can tell that he's excited, which calms me somehow. We step out from the hole in the wall, taking care to remain unseen, and prepare ourselves for the masquerade that awaits us. Des. The memory ends suddenly, cut short by the sound of my name, spoken by a familiar voice, a voice from my past. Vex. My head feels heavy and I raise a hand to my scalp, pushing against the throb that settled beneath my skull. I remember a little. Bits and pieces become clearer the more I think about it, though there's only one thing I know for sure. Vex is here, and I remember him. Oh, yeah. We have a memory. Princess, what are you doing here? The question stuns me for a moment, taking me off guard as memory after memory of the man in front of me rushes to the surface of my mind, piecing together like a glass unbroken. Some memories remain blurred, mere fragments needing a little more time to come into focus. But others swim to the surface, desperate for air while they leave me breathless, struggling to stay afloat. You left me. Emotions hit me one after the other, relentless in their assault. Fear, confusion, anger. Vex, how could you? I meet the eyes of my old friend, expecting to find the kind emerald green gaze I had grown used to, but instead, I see nothing. Nothing but anger, bitterness, and spite. Dread snakes through my veins. Something is wrong. Something is different, and I can't quite figure out what. I thought you were dead. You were supposed to be... Am I supposed to... Be interesting to know that he would be part of the rebellion. Vex stops, the muscles feathering in his jaw as it tightens, and he sets his unfeeling gaze on me. How did you escape? Escape? He thinks I escaped the attack on the palace. I remember now what truly happened. I remember my brother's wedding, how we were all at the palace that night, the perfect time for the enemy to strike. I left the reception early, planning on leaving the city to search for Vex, and now here he is, standing right in front of me. I think Vex had something to do with it. So he's probably surprised that I'm even alive. So much has happened since I last saw you. I was rescued by a crew of mercenaries after being injured by Goldus. My memory of it was gone until now. Seeing you seems to have sparked something in my mind. You remembered because of me? I nod, finding it increasingly difficult to meet those cold, cold eyes of his, the ones that were once filled with such warmth. What else do you remember? I remember... We were friends. We were more than friends. I remember we were friends. Let's just keep it at that, because I'm completely suspect of him. A strangled sob escaped as I pressed my hand to my eyes and gasped for air, blocking everything out and falling into a world of darkness. You were my friend. You looked out for me and made me laugh. We would talk about running away from the palace and exploring the system. You told me of the places you traveled to, and you always explained them so well. Almost felt like I'd been there too. His mouth twitches as holding himself back from something he wants to say. I remember what happened that day, the day of the attack. You left. Weeks went by and no one would tell me why or where you had gone. My chest caves at the memories of being told to sit up, shut up, and do my duty, all while my only friend in the whole world was gone. I ran away, and I was desperate for answers. I came looking for you, though I didn't make it very far before... On the last word, my voice cracks, and I will the tears that threaten to spill to stay where they are. Why did you leave? Vex stares me down, his eyes cold and unflinching, and I don't understand any of it. I wasn't your friend. I didn't care about you, not even when they told me they were storming the palace and exterminating the royal line. Aha, I guessed it right. You're a dick. You... What? I was using you, Des. He laughs, but it's a bitter sound devoid of any warmth. You were so naive. You had no idea. All you wanted was a friend. I don't believe you. We were friends. You would think that, wouldn't you? You spoiled little brat. What would you have me tell you, princess? You want me to say I missed you? That I thought of you every day and wondered if you'd ever get to see those places we talked about? Wondered if someone better would take you there? I didn't. I didn't miss you. I didn't think of you, even for a second. Say nothing. I don't want to slap him. I don't want to... You're lying. I'm gonna just say nothing. Because I can be cold just as you, dude. Something shatters inside me, some remnant of the past that had rushed back to the surface only to crumble like dust in my hands. All those times we would sneak out of the palace just to get away, the passages you showed me, was exactly what I needed to know. And when I took that information to Zovac, he knew exactly where and how to strike. No, it can't be true. If it is, that means it's my fault. If you know what's good for you, you'll stay far away from the Andromeda Six and her crew. They know too much, far too much, and they'll be dealt with soon enough. Forget who you were, Des. That person doesn't exist anymore. If you're lucky, you'll never see me again. He turns to leave, stopping for the briefest of moments to say from over his shoulder, I'm not sorry for what happened, but I am sorry for Nerissa. She might have made a good queen, but we couldn't wait long enough to find out. He backs into the shadows, one foot behind the other, and I can't stop myself from reaching for him. He can't leave, not now. I need to know more. Nerissa. Something sharp stabs through my chest as pain so fierce I can barely keep myself on my feet. Nerissa, my eldest sister, an heir to the Pegasus throne. Vex was the only one who ever smiled at me, except for Nerissa. Des. Footsteps echo through the darkness, but my mind has trouble processing the presence. Nerissa, she was going to be queen. She hated her father, but she loved me, and now she's gone. Des, what the hell are you doing out here? Didn't I tell you to stay in the club? The captain's voice rumbles right past me. Are you even listening to me? Stop, Cauldron. Bash shoulders past the captain, but I see nothing but shadows and shapes dancing behind the tears filling my eyes. Can't you see she's upset? Cauldron huffs a breath while cold metal fingers take me by the arm and help me stay upright. Are you hurt? I shake my head, unable to speak, and Bash lets out a relieved breath. Let's take her back to the ship. This isn't the kind of place we should be hanging about. Damon, do a sweep of the area. Make sure there's nothing out of the ordinary. I don't see when Damon sinks back into the shadows, as quiet as mist, but I feel Bash gently takes me by the arm and guides me in the direction of the ship, Cauldron walking up ahead of us. Bash leads me through the crowded streets of the city, and I'm glad for it, because my mind is elsewhere, lost in memories of the past. Before I know it, we're in front of the A6, ascending the load ramp to the docks. Oh shit. Everyone. 3 heads snap up when we enter, and immediately Run is on her feet. I did not mean to do that. What happened? I'm not sure exactly. Bash moves away to give me space, though all 5 of them continue to look at me, waiting for answers, till Cauldron cuts in. You shouldn't have left the club. You've no idea how dangerous the city can be for someone alone. I'm sorry, I didn't think? Yeah, that seems to happen a lot, doesn't it? Cut it out, Cauldron. The last thing we need right now is your bad temper. Cauldron opens his mouth to speak, though stops himself at the sight of Rona's glare. Man, she has everyone under control. I wonder if we're ever gonna see her, really explode one day. Fine. Throwing his arms up in frustration, he backs off and leans against the far wall, a sour expression twisting his features. Rona comes over, putting a hand on Bash's arm to make sure he's alright before turning to me. Are you okay? When you didn't come back, I was so worried about you. She lowers her voice and leans closer, glancing Cauldron before fixing her bright yellow eyes on me. He may have said it the wrong way, but he's right. Las Vegas is a dangerous place. I'm sorry for worrying you. I'm sorry I just disappeared. I should have said something. I think back on meeting Vex in that alleyway, on the things he had said to me. I had been such a fool to think he could ever have been my friend. Shaking my head to clear the thoughts, I decide it's best not to dwell on it now, especially not with so many eyes on me. I didn't mean to worry you. I'm just glad you're all right. I smile at Rona gratefully. It's nice to have someone worry about me for once. I've never had many people like that in my life before. I take in a lungful of air, steadying my breath as I scan the room. One look at the pilot sitting with her arm cradled against her stomach brings the memory of the night crashing back on me in a wave of guilt. Is your hand all right? Ayami grins at me, as chipper as ever. I'd imagine it'd take a lot more than a broken hand to slow this girl down. Yeah, no kidding. A little sore, but I'll be fine by morning. Doc's amazing at her job, and having all the right equipment on the ship doesn't hurt either. I smile at her in return, glad to hear she's okay, even with my failure to bring back the items for her hand. Ice. It cut... cut off there for a minute. Damon. The hell? I love the music change there. This music's a little bit more dangerous. When I follow Rona's gaze, it's to see Damon entering the bridge. Fresh scarlet blood splattered over his face and the front of his clothes. A streak of panic hits me, and I stand frozen to the spot, utterly useless. What happened? Rona rushes forward to help Damon, who simply holds a bloodied, gloved hand up in front of him to stop her. We were followed. The blood isn't mine. Damn it. I let out a breath, relieved to know Damon is unharmed. My gaze darts between the captain and his second in command, as does the rest of the crews. Followed? How? Damon shrugs, his cold eyes pinned on Cauldron in a way that sends a shiver down my spine. Ask the commander over there. Surely he knows how to guard a ship. How a guard ship is capable of finding... Oh, I remember the guard. Okay. A collective murmur goes through the room, and I swallow around the lump in my throat. More concerning than the fact of being followed is the splattering of blood on Damon's clothes. The blood couldn't have come from Vex. Could it? Guard ship? What's going on? They must have put a tracker on us. Cauldron's voice is quiet, and I get the impression that more than anything, he's angry at himself. Damon shakes his head and scoffs. You didn't think to check? I was a little preoccupied with the great bloody hole in my ship and the stray that June brought aboard. Oh, so this is my fault? Don't make it any worse. Keep quiet. My face begins heating and I open my mouth. To say what, I don't know, so I say nothing instead. There's no need for that. I'm the one who made the decision to bring her on board, so if you want to be mad at someone, let it be me. I'm not mad at anyone. I'm just... A growl tears from Cauldron's throat as he kicks over a stack of metal boxes, completely losing his cool. How did things get so f***ed up? Things were always effed up, Cal. We just never learned how to deal with it. The captain waves a dismissive hand at all of us before pinching the bridge of his nose and taking in a deep breath to calm himself. What's done is done. We'll check in with Alpa about getting a CD. A cloaking device isn't going to do shit if they already know we're here, and how the hell do you expect to get the money for that anyway? Vash helps Damon find an old rag, leaving him to wipe the blood from his face and clothes while the captain growls at him. How we always get the money, Damon. We're mercenaries, unless you've managed to forget. You know just as well as I do that we don't have the time for that. What else do you propose we do? Aya gives him a helpless shrug, her glare burning straight through him, and I take the opportunity to speak up before Cauldron can enrage anyone further. There might be another way. 6 pairs of eyes fall on me and I hesitate. It's not ideal, what I'm about to propose, but value our lives far more than some old trinket. Well, if you have an idea, then spit it out. Taking in a deep, shaky breath, I meet his eyes. We can sell my music box. It's made from Kenevin, right? Surely it's enough to buy the part you need, and then some. No, absolutely not. Des, you can't just sell off the only link you have to your past. I look at no one but the captain, gauging his response. Finally, upon making a decision, he lets out a sigh. I agree. It's not something any of us would ask you to do. You're not asking, I'm offering. And besides, it's not my only link to the past. June steps forward, his eyebrows dipping in clear confusion. What do you mean? Oh. Tell them about Vex. Because maybe he has a... Tell them. This might be a really bad decision, honestly, but I feel like if I don't tell them about Vex, it's gonna be worse, because then they'll know I met him, and why I didn't trust them enough to tell them. So we're gonna tell them. The reason I left the club was because I saw someone from my past, a member of the Royal Guard. Royal Guard? I don't understand. What was someone from the RG doing here? My voice shakes, thinking back on the confrontation with Vex in the alley and everything he told me. I don't dare tell them that he had lied to me for over a year, pretending to be my friend while gathering intel for the man who murdered my family. I definitely don't want to tell them that because of my own naivety, I played right into the palm of his hand and gave him everything. When I saw him, I started to remember. I remembered he was a guard who was assigned to me because Cauldron swears under his breath, and when his eyes lock on mine, I know he's the only one who's figured out what I'm trying to say. Go on, tell them. With a deep breath, I compose myself, taking the opportunity to look between the crew before things between us are changed forever. My name is Des Pegasus, and I'm the youngest child of King Finis and the Lunar Queen, Nokella. I love how Damon has this geeked up look on his face, like, oh, I hit the jackpot. The faces in front of me are a mix of horror, confusion, and anger, and my stomach drops, knowing the weight of the bomb I've dropped on every single one of them. Shit. Well, this changes things. This changes everything. Damon is the only one who approaches first. The hard set of his gaze is perfect contradiction to the grin that tilts his lips. He studies me for a moment, seeing me through new eyes before he turns back to the crew. Don't you see? If we turn over the little Princess of Zovak, it could be just enough to wipe his bounty on us from the record. I do nothing but stare at him in disbelief, my heart pounding in my ears like a drum. What did he just say? At least 2 shouts of outrage come from the group, though Damon only smiles wider, his teeth glinting under the fluorescent lights. He's gonna turn on me. You've gone too far, Damon. Des is one of us. We're not going to just hand her over to her family's murderer. Agreed, and I will kick your ass if another word of it comes out of your mouth. My eyes catch June for the briefest moment, and he looks away just as quickly, fixing Damon with a hard stare. Damon snorts at Aya's threat, rolling his eyes as if he couldn't care less. Then he steps toward the captain, his face blocked from my view and his voice low. Calculated. Cal, I know you agree with me on this. Cauldron looks past Damon, those cold eyes fixing me on the spot, though I harden myself and stand my ground. And then he shakes his head at his second command, his voice rough, leaving no room for debate. It's not an option. Damon clicks his tongue in disappointment and backs off, hands held in front of him in defeat. Alright. Have it your way. Don't go crucifying me for saying what you're all thinking. He slinks away like an angry cat, every pair of his eyes on him as if he might snatch me away until he disappears up the stairs and out of sight. So now Damon is someone I can't trust. Once gone, Cal lets out a tired sigh. I think we should all call it a night. It's been a long day, and there's much we'll need to discuss tomorrow. I glance toward the stairs that lead to the main deck of the ship, wondering where Damon went and if I should find him. In the end, I decide it's probably best to let him be, and after his proposal earlier, I'm not sure I want to speak to him at all. Des, I need to speak with you. With a nod, I follow the captain up to the bridge, falling behind and losing myself in thoughts. We walk in silence, but I don't mind it. My head is reeling, and I have to mentally prepare myself for the conversation to come. When Cal stops, he turns to face me, but the anger is drained from him. Instead, he seems concerned, an emotion I'm not used to seeing on him. How are you feeling? The question both relieves and takes me off guard at the same time, and with the way he's looking at me, I know things have changed. Things haven't always been easy between the captain and I, but despite that, I'm glad he asked, and he had stood up for me against Damon after all. Like I'm going to fall apart at any moment. Like I have some tough decisions to make, like I don't want to think about it. Like I have some tough decisions to make. If Zovak finds out I'm alive, there will be hell to pay. I think back to Vex and learning the truth of him working for Zovak. How long will it take for him to contact his master and reveal where I am? I need a plan, something to keep him off my trail until I can figure out what I need to do next. Unfortunately, he's out for all of us, but fortunately for you, the CD will do the trick. For now, at least. Alright, so that's the plan then. Get the CD. Cal drops his head, letting out a long breath before he looks at me again, his face anguished. I owe you an apology. He drags a thumb across his bottom lip, and I can see this isn't easy for him. I'm sorry for what I said that first day you came aboard. You don't have to. No, I do. The captain fixes me with a hard stare, and I close my mouth, content to listen. I have to say it. I have no excuse for how I acted. I just need you to know that I'm sorry. For all of it. Thank you. You'll have to do better than that. Flirt. Hug him. Let's go in for a hug. I silently step forward, slipping my arms around him and feeling the strength of his body against mine. He freezes for a moment, before relaxing into my embrace and returning the gesture. Hugs don't always mean you're flirting. I'm glad that he doesn't back away even after finding out the truth of who I am. I couldn't bear it if he did. I can see a little more clearly through the captain's hard exterior. He was protecting his crew, plain and simple. I understand that he didn't trust me, but I hope that he's beginning to now. When we pull apart, we don't let go of each other completely, and as our eyes lock, my throat tightens. Cal smiles, but his face drops as soon as some hidden memory surfaces, and he hesitates a moment before speaking again. I knew your brother, Prince Surin. We trained for the guard together, and we were friends for a time before we were dispatched to different districts. I freeze, letting the word sink in. I had no idea the two of them even knew each other, and now that I know, I can't tell how he makes me feel. He was a good man. He didn't deserve what happened to them. To him, none of your family did. It was his wedding, the night of the attack. I remember it now. My voice shakes when I speak, the past hanging over me like a thundercloud ready to explode. We weren't close, but I never wanted this. I never wanted any of them to get hurt like this. My breath sticks in my throat, and for a moment I have trouble getting air to my lungs that squeeze and tighten in my chest. People hated my father. Does that mean he deserved to die? I shake my head. That's not what I meant at all, but I certainly don't wonder why people wanted him gone. I heard what the people said when I would sneak into the city, that said he was a narcissist, that he was leaving the people to suffer while our family drank from gold goblets and ate off of silver plates. My brothers and sisters were content to live a life of privilege, either too ignorant or scared to do anything else, but Nerissa, the heir to the throne, she loved the people. She tried to change our father's mind on so many things, but he would never listen. And I felt so powerless. I didn't know what to do, so I did nothing. I'm just as bad as he was. No, wanting to do something about it, that's the first step. For me, it was the only step. I'd rather not talk about it anymore. For me, it was the only step. Well, in that case, it was the only step I ever made. I never had a chance to do more. Cal gives me what might be considered a soft look if anything about him was soft at all. When I graduated from my training in the Guard, I was top of my squadron. I could have picked any posting I wanted, but I chose to be stationed in the war sector of the Bronze District. Do you know why? And I shake my head. From when Damon had insinuated in the bar, I wasn't aware Cal had a choice as to where he was stationed. Because I wanted to make a difference. I wanted the people to know that there was still someone who gave a shit about them, who would fight for them. I hide my frown, hesitating before asking the question that poised on my lips, but it's one that seemed important. Because that's where you're from. His blue eyes go dark, but eventually he nods, looking away and letting out a short, sharp breath. My moms gave me everything I ever wanted, but my birth parents? I couldn't stop myself from wondering if it was their circumstances that prevented them from keeping me. He was quiet for a moment, but then he says with a shrug, or maybe they just didn't want me. Who knows? Oh God, Cal, that is so sad. I'm sure they did. He glances sidelong at me, putting the wall back in place, piece by piece. Before he can finish rebuilding it completely, I ask another question. Why were you exiled? Cal's throat bobs, his face darkening as he closes himself off more and more. I don't want to talk about that. I won't let him shut me out again, not this time. Cal, please tell me. He stops to study me if it's deciding how much he wants me to know. I see the moment he gives in when a breath of air leaves him and his shoulders slump in defeat. I wasn't exiled initially. I was awaiting my execution. You... what? Accused of the murder of Lord Oberon, the king's uncle and head of the Crown Council. My eyes widen on the man in front of me, hardly believing what I'm hearing. I remember Lord Oberon's death. I remember attending his funeral with the rest of my family, and how my father had taken the loss particularly hard. They said his murderer was caught and being brought to justice. Back then I didn't care to know more. I never liked my father's uncle. He was mean and cruel and was hated by the people almost as much as the king himself. But Cal, it can't be true. You murdered him? He gives me a look, offended that I even have to ask the question. I immediately feel guilty for doing so. No, it was a setup. He doesn't reply for a while, pacing instead towards the panel of the far wall and scanning the controls. When he does speak, his voice is low, barely audible above the beeps and whirls of the bridge. I cared about those people in the Bronze District, but I was the only one. When I started pushing for change, others saw that as a problem. I was betrayed by those closest to me and used as a pawn in Jess Zovak's scheme to get rid of the biggest opposition to his claim and infiltrate the Crown Council from the inside. You knew Zovak? No, not until Yaya busted me out of the prison and told me who was really behind everything I was accused of. Couldn't you have told someone? Cleared your name? Zovak already had the council in the palm of his hand. Who would have believed me? I swallow hard, knowing that what he says makes sense, but hating the injustice of it anyway. I had a lot of time to think while I was waiting for my death, a lot of time to wonder where things all went wrong. And what conclusion did you come to? That I trusted the wrong people, and that I wouldn't make the same mistake again. Suddenly, the captain's distrust makes a lot of sense to me. He was hurt, plain and simple, and all he's trying to do is make sure it doesn't happen again. Who betrayed you? I think we've spoken about it enough. I nod. He had already told me so much more than I ever thought he would. What about the bounty then? What's the deal there? It's simple, really. When Zovak found out I had escaped and assembled a crew, he put the hit out on the lot of us. His followers see him as their champion, the protagonist in their little story, banishing the evil king and taking the throne as his own. But the people, the ones who have suffered long and hard enough, see him for what he truly is, a tyrant, pushing those at the lowest ring down further still and calling it salvation. It takes only a spark to start the flames of revolution, as Zovak knows well. That's why he wants us gone. So you'll fight him. I'll do whatever I can to pull him from that throne, from the throne, when the time comes. We have to do something, but we're only 6 against an entire army. 7. Would you fight with us, princess? Yes. I want to fight. I would if you'll have me. A crooked grin tugs at his lips, and I know he's glad to hear it. If I recall correctly, you've already secured your place on the crew. It's yours for as long as you want it. I think of the second in command, who might have a different view on the matter. But isn't he over me? Damon is under my command as long as he's on this ship. I can't make excuses for his behavior. The things he's had to do to survive are brutal, and he's become ruthless because of it. It doesn't surprise me that that was his first instinct. I'm not about to make Zovak's job any easier for him, and I know the crew would agree with me on that. All of them. I don't say it out loud, but I hope he's right. A sound goes off on the device around his wrist, and with a movement of his arm brings up the halo screen and scans the words in front of him. Rona is waiting for you in the infirmary. She wants to do a checkup. I'm okay, she doesn't have to worry. He gives me a look, and I know at once that I'm fighting a losing battle. She will anyway. Best to put her mind at ease, or she'll be on both our backs about it. I start to leave, but before I make it much further, he calls out to me one last time. Tomorrow, we'll be deciding our next move. You'll have a say in the decision if you want it. I give him a nod, knowing my status as a princess of Goldus will be a contributing factor to whatever comes next. Oh boy. Big girl decision. Although I also kind of wonder what would have happened if I would have just said, like, not told any of them. But I wanted to tell them because if I didn't, I was afraid that they would find out and hate me for it later. With a last goodbye, I leave the captain on the bridge and head towards the infirmary before we both incur the wrath of the paramedic. The doors of the infirmary hiss as they open and admit me into the room, and Rona's head snaps up from where she's seated in front of her terminal. She gives me a soft smile, standing to greet me. I was beginning to think Cal ignored my message. Does he do that a lot? And I have to say this out loud. Cal has he looks so much softer and so much like a person when he smiles. She chuckles, her blue lips widening to reveal most of her teeth. More than you'd think. And I pace further into the room, glancing over the various plants and specimens that cover the cabinets and desk. He said you wanted to do a checkup. I do. Well, I really just want to make sure you are alright. She gestures for me to take a seat on the familiar medical bed, and once again, the plastic crinkles under me as I sit. It smells different in here again this time, like jasmine buds and nightfall. I'm sure Rona's mister is to thank for the pleasant scents, and I inhale deeply, letting it calm me. So, now that your memories have started returning, how much do you remember? Bits and pieces. They seem to be coming back easier now, but some are still fuzzy. Rona takes her medical wand and lights the tip, checking my eyes first and then my ears before she takes my temperature. Any pain? I have a headache, but that's it. She sets down her wand and goes over to a large cabinet. After shuffling around in it a little, she comes back with a small container. Take a couple of these. They'll give you some relief. You can take them every 4 to 6 hours if the pain persists. She fills a glass with water and hands it to me, and I swallow down a couple of the pills. Almost immediately, the ache in my head begins to dull, and I hand the glass back to her with a grateful smile. I'd like to do some scans over the next couple of days. They will take it a little while, but it'll give me a clearer view of what's going on in that head of yours. I nod, and she gives me a gentle smile, placing a comforting hand on my arm. I can't imagine what you must be going through right now. And then her face falls and the glimmer of her skin fades, betraying her true emotions. I'm sorry for your family, Des. I truly am. With a nod of my head, I accept her condolences, giving her a grateful smile. It'll be alright, but thank you anyway. It's weird because I don't hear any music. It's completely silent. There might be something in the background. I don't know. I know what it's like to live with a difficult family, and I've seen my share of tragedy. After talking over with Cal, I don't feel I can take any more talk about my family, so I steer the conversation in a new direction instead. When you left your home, was it a difficult decision to make? Rona gives me a sidelong glance as though she sees what I'm doing. Thankfully, she runs with it. The toughest, but I knew I had to do something more. That's when I joined the Archangels and I traveled the Sistel with them, helping those in need. What happened to them? With a sigh, she brings her chair over to face where I sit and drops down into it with no small amount of grace. I kind of like this aspect because it seems like a lot of people, now that they know my honesty with them, slowly I want to see if people become very deep and honest with me, and there's like this newfound trust in all of us. And I'll tell you if you want to hear it, but it's not a pretty story. I'd like to hear it. I won't force you to relive it. I'd like to hear it. I'd like to hear the story as long as you're willing to tell it. She doesn't speak for a moment, gathering her thoughts before her story begins. Before she speaks, her skin flickers, torn between conflicting memories. When I left, it was with a friend. His sister was an Archangel, and he was going off to join her, so I tagged along. The work we did was, well, it was amazing at first. Her face drops, and I know the worst is yet to come. We were here, on Turlium, and a group of Talari certainly draws attention, but we didn't think. We were too focused on trying to get our name out there, on trying to help people. You may know of the Chimera, Zovek's followers. They are a brutal, bloody clan. They do what they want, when they want to. One day we were walking the streets when 24, maybe more, surrounded us. 24 against 10 of us. They rounded us up. They pushed us down a dark alley away from prying eyes. No one dared to stop them. We had helped countless people, and yet no one helped us. Oh, she's getting angry. They herded us like cattle. They insulted, beat, and belittled us. A couple of the Archangels tried to escape, and while the Chimera were distracted, my girlfriend Mila pushed me into the shell of a ruined building. She saved my life. I was able to hide quickly enough, concealed by the remnants of the building I was in. They couldn't see me, but I saw everything. They didn't bother to count the bodies. They didn't care how many of us there were, as long as we were dead. I watched them butcher my friends, every single one of them, and I did nothing. There's nothing you could have done. I'm so sorry. I don't want to feel like I'm just gonna go with the remedial I'm so sorry, because if I say there's nothing you could have done, that could kind of spark some irritation, so both of these answers honestly could. I'm bad at this choice. I'm sorry you had to go through that. It sounds nothing short of horrific. I try not to think back on it too much. I want to remember my friends as they were before that awful day. I give her a small encouraging smile. That's a good way to remember them. I try to keep thoughts of my family at bay, of their final moments, and what I would have seen if I had been there. The memories of Nerissa hits especially hard. Was she frightened? Did she suffer? I can safely say that no matter what happened, my sister would have gone down fighting. She was never one to give up so easily. Rona takes in a deep, shuddering breath, her eyes shining with unshed tears. I can't remember how long I hid there, terrified to leave in case they came back. She stops suddenly, a silent memory playing in her mind, one only she has access to. With a sigh, she continues her story, her eyes half closed as though she might still be back there in that damned alleyway. When I finally stumbled out of there, something inside me was changed. I had this anger. I was sad, yes, but that rage consumed me. Rage, helplessness. I was one person against an entire clan. Eventually, I found refuge in a crowded bar, hoping to disappear among the crowd until I could figure out what to do next. That bar was the Ark. What happened next? I saw a familiar face, one who insisted he owed me a debt. Sebastian. Her face lights up at the memory, and I can only imagine how it must have felt to find a friendly face after such a tragedy. He introduced me to Cauldron, and I told the captain my story, and since then, I've been a part of the crew. So you joined the crew because you had no other choice. I joined them because they were hunting monsters. Cal, after what he had been through, was hell-bent on stopping Zovak and the Chimera by any means possible. Suddenly, I wasn't helpless anymore. She fixes me with those unusual yellow eyes, her stare suddenly determined. We failed on Goldus. It won't happen again. Something in Rona's demeanor scares me a little, though I can't say I blame her for wanting revenge against the group who murdered hers. So now you know why I joined the Andromeda Six. I'm here to see that Zovak and the Chimera fall. I don't know how yet, but we will find a way. That's all that matters. I didn't think you had it in you. I believe it. Encourage that strength, man. I see your determination, and I know how it feels to want justice, and even revenge. The most important person in my life was murdered, and I wasn't even there to say goodbye. Then you know how it feels. How it carves out a piece of your humanity and your faith. Our eyes meet, and something in me feels connected by the tragedies we've both had to endure. I'm starting to feel it, more than I ever wanted. What will you do now that you know? My mouth pulls into a tight line, determined that whatever happens, I'll find the path I need to be on. Cal mentioned a meeting tomorrow to discuss what happens next. I suppose I'll hear what everyone has to say and decide from there. Rona opens her mouth to say something, but stops before the words come out. What is it? With an apologetic smile, she finally speaks. There are too many people who abuse the power they have, but sometimes doing nothing at all is just as bad. You're the only surviving Pegs, and you have the biggest claim to the throne, if you want it. She doesn't meet my eyes, but I understand what she's trying to say. I hadn't had the chance to think on it much, and I'm not sure how much I want to. There are people who would support you. I'd support you. That means a lot. I'm glad I can count on you. Caress her hair. I don't want to touch her. That's so rude. Why are these this is something I would say to somebody. I'm glad I can count on you, but it's not in a flirting manner. Jesus game. It means a lot to have your support, but I don't know if that's the life I want. Rona meets my gaze with hers, unflattering, and I can tell that even though it's not exactly what she wants to hear, she understands where I'm coming from. It's not something I've thought about yet. To be honest, it's not something I thought about ever. I'm the youngest of 11 children. This day should never have happened. Whatever you decide, Zovek can't be left to rule. There has to be someone else. Can I put you in charge? You're like the one that wants to help everybody. I would rather just have you in charge at this point. There are others who might have a claim, as weak as it may be, but none of that mattered with Zovek at the head of power. For all I know, he might have murdered them too. Rona lets out a heavy breath, and for the first time I notice how tired she looks. All of a sudden I feel incredibly guilty for having kept her up so late. It's late and we both need to get some rest. I'll see you again when you come back for your scans. I'm sure that tomorrow there will be a lot we need to discuss. I stand and straighten myself up, wishing Rona a good night before leaving the infirmary, looking forward to finding a moment of peace alone in my room. Please don't tell me Damon's in my room. My room looks so dingy and dirty now that I've seen everything so clean and, well, things have been organized everywhere I've gone, for the most part. Upon entering my room, I fall back onto the bed, exhausted and thoroughly ready for a moment alone. I need to sleep. I can feel that in my mind as much as my body, but the memories plague me, refusing to give me a moment's rest. The thought that sticks in my mind above all is that I need to stay a step ahead of Zovek. How exactly am I going to manage that remains to be seen, but I have to find a way. And after that, I'll deal with the grief. Nerissa. Vex. The one thing I know is, if I hadn't gone looking for Vex, I wouldn't be alive right now. There had only been a handful of times that my family has been all together. Weddings, funerals, Zovek would have had it all planned out. When I think back on my family, on the life we lived together, my feelings are mixed. Mostly I was alone with only my servants and guards for company. Before Vex came along, I would try to find ways to spend time with my siblings, but the less in common I found we had, the more I stopped trying. The only one who made time for me was Nerissa. Even with all her duties, we had a strong bond. I was always Nerissa's favorite. My sister should have been queen in place of our negligent father, and we both eagerly awaited her time on the throne. Now my music box, a gift from my eldest sister, is the only thing I have left of her. And my father wasn't supposed to be king. I'd heard the stories, he had lost his own father and his brother all in the same day. He was thrust onto the throne, too young and inexperienced to know what to do with it, guided only by his uncle and the crown council. My grandfather was a great king, or so I've heard, but his brother and son unraveled all he had done in a matter of a few short years and left the system in disarray. My mother was Nicola, the Lunar Queen, and the king's second wife. She was kind and gentle. When I was young, we would play games in the garden, just the two of us. But as time went on, she grew distant and detached from the world. Eventually, she stopped speaking completely, spending days upon days locked away in her room until she was all but forgotten. That's sad. I never forgot her. With the memories of my family playing in my mind, I eventually drift into a restless sleep. I tumbled out of the ballroom with Vex on my heels, his laughter almost as loud as my own as we draw the attention of nearby guests. We danced for hours and hours, and I couldn't remember the last time I'd had so much fun, though things were always fun with Vex around. But the ballroom had eventually started to clear out, and we finally agreed to cut the night short, thinking it best to avoid being seen. Lieutenant Sheriff, what are you doing away from your post? Oh shit, you're in trouble. Run! The captain stops and squints at me, and while Vex quickly steps between us to shield me from his view, it's too late. Princess, you're not supposed to be here. Vex looks back at me from over his shoulder, a single word slipping from between his lips. Run. I don't have to be told twice. Turning on my heels, I bolt down the corridor, pushing through the crowd of confused and horrified guests who thankfully thin out as I reach the end of the hall, deciding which way to turn. This way. A hand grabs mine and a bubble of laughter escapes me as Vex pulls me down the hall to the left, our feet pounding the carpeted floor as shouts erupt from behind us. We turn another corner and then one more until Vex stops in front of a large tapestry, pulls it aside, and pushes me into the hidden passageway behind it. I lean back against the wall, breathing hard. Vex knows the secrets of this palace almost as well as I do, and tonight I couldn't be more glad for it. Vex, I think we lost... Shh. Vex steps before me and clamps a hand over my mouth, just as the sound of footsteps echoes in the hallway on the other side of the passageway. I still at once, and satisfied that I won't make a sound, Vex drops his hand and gives me a crooked grin. Stay quiet. Clamping my lips tighter, I stay quiet, exchanging the most mischievous of looks with Vex. Laughter dances... I'm losing my voice. Laughter dances in his eyes, and for the umpteenth time tonight, I'm glad I let him talk me into going into the masquerade. I think there's something here. A tap on the tapestry startles us, and Vex grabs my hand to pull me further down the quickening, darkening passageway. We all but tumble out from behind a statue and into the corridor, in the quiet of the area a welcome change of pace. I take a moment to catch my breath and look around, making sure we're truly alone before letting out a breath of relief. One day, we'll leave this place. I'll take you somewhere where there are no rules or expectations, where we can just be us. Do you promise? I promise, Des. With a start, I wake, bolting upright in bed and blinking against the harsh sun shining through the window. That's like so sad that this... But, I'm so conflicted on thoughts. A rhythmic knock on my door drags me back to the present, the rush of the memory that just come to me steadily fading as I get up and make my way to the door, smoothing down my wrinkled outfit. I'm not sure how long I slept for, but the steady stream of sunlight that filters through the window tells me it was long enough. When I slide open the door with a hiss, it's to find a certain pilot standing in the doorway, looking much too perky for this early in the morning. Oh, didn't think you'd be awake already. Ayami smiles wide, beaming at me with an energy that's not fitting for someone who'd barely gotten any sleep last night. I bid you good morning, princess. 'Twas would not do to waste away daylight. I have thus come to make sure that thou art ready for the day ahead. Giving me a half bow, the poor usage of Old English, coupled with the choking sound of strained laughter, simply gives it away just how much fun Ayami seems to be having at my expense. Can't say I blame her for this terrible impression of a royal servant. I too would be in line to make fun of the lost noble child if I was her. Might as well roll with it. That was horrible, but I loved it. Well, of course you do. My stuck-up impression is spot on. Not the words I'd use to describe it, but I don't have it in me to burst her bubble, so I step back and make way for her to join me in my room instead. Barely glancing around, Ayami quickly makes her way to the foot of my bed, plopping down on the covers before turning her piercing violet eyes on me. So, how are you? All things considered, I'd reckon I'm doing well. It's not as if anything I do will change what happened. All I can do is figure out what to do next and commit. Pressing her lips together, Ayami stares at me for a few seconds more before blinking away and shaking her own head. I'm glad she came to check on me and that she bothered asking how I feel, yet curiosity still nags at me as her thoughts on me. How do you feel about this? Does my past bother you? There truly is no other way to put it, and I don't think I can beat around the bush with this one. Does it bother you, who I am? Not really, no. I mean, was it a shock when I found out you were actually some big shot noble? Yeah, but by then the damage was already done. Not sure how much of a big shot I am, but what damage? She shrugs, making a face that makes it impossible to say she regrets anything she might have done prior to finding that out. I like you already. It doesn't matter to me who your folks are, or anything of the sort. I wouldn't be able to express the relief I felt at her words if I tried my best. The idea of the crew pushing me away because of my family terrifies me. They are all the only people I have around me right now, and despite the short time we've known each other, I've come to rely on them. Maybe I shouldn't, but it's true. I have noticed a slight change in her stance, as she came around to check up on me this early in the day, but I'll take it over being ignored. I give Aya a small smile in return, and she beams right back at me with an intensity that makes me think she wants to squish my worries with the brightness of her smile. I feel like she knows something. She knows something or she's gonna want something. Not malicious. Tapping on the empty bed seat next to her, Aya gestures me to come over. Have I ever told you how I ended up in the army? I'm aware Cal and her had served together, but while I can clearly see why the captain would choose to follow a military career, it's quite hard to picture a Yami waking up one day and enlisting. Shaking my head, she hesitates a moment before speaking again. I'm gonna have a drink of water. You're gonna have that unpleasant pause. Shaking my head, she hesitates a moment before speaking again. Well, it's a long story, so... I'm listening. I'm listening. I want to hear it. I lean back against the wall, still sitting on my bed as I ready myself to listen to her story. I was born on Kipla. It wasn't in its best state by then already, with all the chaos caused by their most recent experiment, but it was home. I'll admit I'm not very well versed in the political nuances of how the K's tried to escape the impending doom of our home, but I know the others were dicks about it. Zalaria but kicked us out on our doorstep, but we were never really close, so I don't know what they thought was going on. I wasn't even 10 years old at the time, and hardly anyone talks about that now. Aya pauses, her throat bobbing up and down as she closed her eyes for a moment. I don't interrupt her, respecting her pace at telling me her story. I lost my home, but Goldus is still there. And Kipla, on the other hand... King Fenris, though, and not trying to be disrespectful, but already being, he was a fucking son of a bitch. When Aya speaks again, it's with eyes burning with anger and frustration, venom in her voice when she says my father's name. Do you know what he said when my people asked for shelter? That we could work for it, which is fair, only in the mines, the same shithole they threw criminals and whoever else they didn't like in. The same place that led our home to ruin. If it wasn't for that stupid place, they never would have uncovered that stupid substance, and we would have never decided to experiment with it to try to weaponize it. I get it, okay? We were to blame for our doom. If we hadn't been greedy to the point of wanting to mess with shit like that, we never would have fucked with things up and messed with our planet's core. But it doesn't matter now. Kiz's gone. This was supposed to be about me, I guess. I shouldn't have started calling your father names. I didn't know him like you did or something. He had it coming. He had it coming. My father and I were never close. His aides probably saw him more than I did. And seeing what his actions caused other people to suffer, a whole species, innocent people, this crew, it makes me sick to think that I'm related to that man. He had it coming. You don't really mean that, do you? I don't know. I hate everything I heard about him, and I hate that he was an absent father, but... Can I truly condone murder? I'm sorry. I don't know. It's okay, we don't need another bloodthirsty member in this crew. Leave that to us experienced pros. Thank you, though. I appreciate the feeling. Ayami gives me an honest smile, reaching out to squeeze my knee once before sitting back up and carrying on with her story. Well, anyway, all the young kings were shipped off in pods for their surrounding planets. Despite of the lack of open doors for us, we'd always been adaptable. We weren't about to roll over and die. My parents, they stayed behind with all the adults and elders, but they put me in a pod with my little brother, directed it to Goldus because they thought we'd have a better chance of making it there. You have a brother? It's only after the words leave my mouth and her face twist into a sad frown that I realize how stupid my question was. Had. I'm sorry. Aya shrugs it off, and I don't insist. She'll talk about it when she's ready, and I must respect that. He was little when this happened, so he doesn't really understand what happened when we made it to Goldus, but we were alone in some back alley from the Bronze District, and there was no one else to look out for us. I had to take that on myself, taking care of me and my little brother, making sure we had food to eat, shelter to sleep. We couldn't just waltz into a foster home, and nobody would even spare us a glance in the street. People in Bronze are poor, jobs are scarce, and you gotta make do with what you have. I ended up doing what most street kids did. Stealing, food, clothes, toys, money, books. I tried to get away with anything I could for my little brother. He was growing, I guess so was I, but I didn't want him to lose out on anything. I'd teach him how to read, write, math. I tried to give him a chance to be someone while depriving myself of all of it. I had no home anymore. He was my home. He was the only thing that kept me going, but maybe I never really thought about how he felt. You see, I tried to make him into the perfect boy so that he can grow to become the perfect man. I never taught him the ways of the street, despite both of us living on it for years and years. Her voice wavers and my chest tightens. Somehow I get the feeling I know how the story is going to end. Aya continues to speak, her voice lower, her fingers drawing random patterns on the bed covers. He was growing up, and boys, they're curious, naive. I didn't see it, and he kept it from me, or maybe I was just refused to see it even when it was right in front of me. Who knows? But he started doing drugs. He made some friends, started hanging out with some other kids, and I might have sheltered him too much. He would try anything they could to get their hands on. They were just misguided kids in the end, One day I came back to our hideout, and he was dead. Her expression is a mix of sorrow and rage, and there are truly no words to be said that would matter in this situation. Losing a loved one is horrible. Losing your only family after losing your parents and giving up your own life for this happiness, I don't know what I would have done in her place. I'm scared to know what she did. I was so angry at him, at his friends, at me. I left. I ran. I couldn't stand saying goodbye to all I had left for my family. I couldn't stand admitting it was my own damn fault he was gone. So I did something stupid like every other grieving person out there. A broken laugh, a sad smile. I want nothing more than to reach out to her, but something keeps me in place, and so all I do is watch. I went after those kids. I didn't know them, nor did I care. I wanted to blame someone, a life for a life, and I couldn't think of anyone else to blame. I never got the chance to exact my revenge, though. One of the kids was the child of a guard member. They were on my ass in a second, beating me up for raising my filthy, gimp hands on his precious drug-dealing fucking kid. Next thing I know, I'm getting thrown in a cell, all bruised and starving. A couple of days go by and I'm already accepting my impending death, It's not something you fear when you grow up in the streets, it's just something inevitable. But instead, this army dude comes along and says that instead of being shipped off to the mines, they're giving us the chance to enlist. I assume they needed some grunt work or it was some twisted form of charity they did. Regardless, I took the deal. Why would I ever give them the pleasure of shipping an illegal refugee to the stupid mines and when I could make them give me food, shelter, and a paycheck? Besides, I didn't really have anything else to do. As if it was practice, Aya bounces off the sad aura she had until just a moment ago, moving on like it was nothing. For some reason, I don't trust the easy smile on her face. It worries me, in fact. Just how often does Aya have to act like everything is fine on the surface? All those years fending for her brother, suppressing her own feelings, that's not something that just fades away. I wonder then if her and Rona have some kind of strained relationship because of the species. It was easy enough. The cadet academy, I wasn't the best in academics, but man did I kick ass in the piloting class, or what? Once I graduated, they shipped me off to the Bronze District and I ended up in a dear old captain's squad. I might have made him suffer a bit with my antics, but I respected the man. He was a decent guy, chose to be in the Bronze because he wanted to help others and all that, so I had his back. Even if he most likely ended up losing some life years whenever I got him to go out with me on a joyride. But isn't that against the law? That's half the fun. It's easy to imagine the captain's reaction whenever he found himself stuck with Aya in a situation like that. It's even easier to imagine Aya's reaction to that. As for me, I'm glad they're still alive after that. He stuck up in responsible behavior even rubbed up on me, because when they effed him over, I was able to control my urge for revenge and managed to help him out, and here we are today. Zovak never did anything to me directly, but I can never forgive him for going for Cal. I guess it's an army thing. I'll stand up for my commander for as long as I'm alive. Her face might have still had that youthful smile on, but her eyes were dead serious when she talked about how she respects the captain. She didn't even seem to realize she'd call him commander, but unlike Damon, she didn't seem to use that term to mock him. Anyway, enough about me. I just wanted you to know that you're not alone here. We may be just a bunch of weird misfits with an arguable set of morals, but we've got each other's back. Thanks for talking with me. Thanks for talking with me. The other two, some of the choices just sound more perverted than they probably should. Thank you, Aya. Don't mention it. I'd like to think you'd do the same for me. Aya reaches out and takes hold of my hand again, a sweet smile on her lips. I'm ridiculously glad that, despite last night, despite who I am, Aya has still been kind enough to come here before getting started on her day just to check on me. I don't reply, but I squeeze her hand gently and her smile broadens even more. Words sometimes take away from what you're truly feeling, and I can only hope she understands how much this meant to me, and that I would absolutely do the same for her if she ever needs me to. Sorry you had to take the time off your day for this. Nah, it's all good. I'm early anyway. Pretty sure I'll give Cauldron a stroke or something when he sees me walking to the bridge at this ungodly hour. If I went any earlier, he'd probably drop dead, and I really don't want to be haunted by his nagging ghost for the rest of my life, you know? She glares at the sunlight streaming from the window next to us, and I wonder what she even considers an acceptable hour to wake up. Wouldn't surprise me if it was somewhere around noon. Better go now, though. I can already feel this will be one hell of a day. Anya stands from my bed, quickly making her way to the door. Looking forward to our next one-on-one time, Des. I think she's flirting with me. Throwing me a final wink, she leaves my room, her footsteps echoing on the corridor just outside. I suck at flirting, as you guys have seen in all the dating apps, this thing. Crazy bones here. I feel lighter after talking with her, and determined. Stifling a yawn, I get up and head outside as well. After speaking with Aya, I found myself wondering what the rest of the crew thinks about all this. Are we going at story time with all of them? Memories of X linger in the back of my mind. I don't know how to feel about it, about him, about how different he was when we met. His warning about leaving the crew bothers me. Is he serious? Should I truly consider it? But where would I go? What would I do? My thoughts are interrupted when I turn the corner to find someone leaning against the opposite wall. Someone I'm not sure I want to see, given the last time we spoke. Look what the cat dragged in. Was starting to wonder where you disappeared to. Damon pushes himself away from the wall and steps toward me, shoving his hands into the pockets of his coat. I make no attempt to hide my sigh, bracing myself for what's about to come. I'm sure you were worried sick. Are you here to kidnap me and turn me in all on your own? Sadly, no. Perhaps some other time if we get the chance. So why are you waiting to ambush me? I watch his smirk grow wider, and I know I've hit the mark. He was waiting for me, but why? I was bored. You dick. His eyes glimmer with interest, and I know his excuses couldn't be further from the truth. After last night, I'm not in the mood to be his entertainment. Though I hate to admit it to him directly, it stung a little that he was so willing to get rid of me when I told him who I really was. I must have been fooling myself, thinking I could grow closer to someone like him. Damon is a mystery wrapped up in a pretty package, and I'm not sure anyone has ever fully figured him out. I steel myself against him and his penetrating sapphire eyes, prepared to trying to convince the both of us that he doesn't unnerve me as much as he does. Despite it all, something inside me, no matter how small, has to admire him for staying true to himself. I guess. I'm not a fool, and I understand how my presence affects the crew. I see the logic in it when he says he wants to turn me in. Though that doesn't make me want to punch him in his smug face any less. So, are you gonna say something, or are we gonna stand here all day just looking at each other? I don't have anything to say to you. Damon laughs at that, a small, humorous sound that grates on my already frayed nerves. No matter, your eyes say more than your mouth ever could. You're thinking about how good it would feel to rip me apart limb from limb right now, aren't you? I wouldn't risk the blood on the floor. Not everyone is as violent as you. I could play into this, or I can completely ignore everything about him. Not everyone is as violent as you. I wouldn't risk the blood on the floor. Not everyone's as violent as you. Not everyone is so quick to resort to violence. We're not all like you. But wouldn't it be so much better if you were? I'd rather keep my hands clean. Damn, that oh, that even kind of put me back. Damon snorts at that, and to my satisfaction, he looks a little taken aback by the snark in my voice. Getting blood off fabric is difficult, I won't lie. Better to burn everything instead. I remember him calming how he took care of things last night after returning to the ship, stained with blood. The way he talks about blood and killing so casually makes me wonder about the kind of life he's lived. Today his hands are pristine, skin unblemished, and I have no doubt that his soul is drenched in the blood of countless victims. Doesn't death bother you? You're despicable. Say nothing. I don't know what to say to him. Flashes of last night still fresh in my mind. Why does it bother you so much? What? His question catches me off guard, and my eyebrows dip in confusion. Death. It's something natural for everyone. You can't escape it. I don't understand how anyone could be so casual about it. Damon doesn't speak again right away, but something in his eyes turns cold as he sizes me up. I know that to him my thoughts must sound silly or naive even. He was born and raised on Cursa, and after all, and I've had a rough idea of how things work there. You're really serious about that, aren't you? He relaxes his shoulders, pulling his lower lip between his teeth before he lets out a sigh. You'd think anything was normal if you'd been around it all your life. My parents were killed when I was, 10 years old or something. They owed a lot of money to this gang and, well, they obviously collected, though I can't safely say not in the same way my parents expected. I don't care. I was better off without them anyway. Parents are supposed to be caring and nurturing, right? Well, not them. I was raising myself before they were dead on the ground. They didn't bother me. I didn't bother them. It was a fair exchange. And besides, I turned out pretty damn decent if you ask me. Damon, you were 10. That's not normal. He rolls his eyes at me, waving a hand as though he would push away my doubts with it. I had this friend, a year older than me. She taught me how to pick pockets, how to hold a knife the right way, how to read people, all about how to survive in Cursa basically. We were just another couple of poor, skinny kids on those streets. My parents being killed was nothing different than what had happened to her or to any other kids out there. Death didn't make you special. It was part of our lives from the beginning. It was how you handled it that mattered. I started doing some jobs, making a name for myself in the streets until I finally joined one of the gangs in Cursa and ditched that shithole, earning myself this pretty little scar. Damon taps the scar on his eyebrow twice, then raises an eyebrow at me as though he can already hear the questions ticking away inside my head. Get more water. Gotta move that so it's not in the way of my reading space. Growing up as an orphan isn't something any kid should have to just get used to, and I can't even begin to imagine what it must have been like growing up in such a reality. No family, no safety, no schools. The kids on Cursa even have enough to eat. Isn't there anyone to help them? Aren't there guards and a consul responsible for handling security? There's so many things I want to ask him, so much I want to know. You were just a child. A child, maybe, but I had to learn to grow up fast. When I say my parents were killed, I don't mean I came home and found their bodies resting peacefully in our living room. A shiver runs through me, dread flooding my veins in anticipation of his next words. I mean, I was there, and I should have died as well. Collateral damage and all. Then how are you still here? Damon laughs, but the sound is cold and bitter. How do you think? I don't even want to consider the possibility. I don't want to make it real by saying the words out loud, but I do it anyway. You killed him. What did you expect me to do? Lie down and die? I swallow around the lump in my throat, horrified by this admission. A child should never have to be faced with that choice, or lack of choice in that situation. It doesn't justify Damon being an asshole 99% of the time, but at least it explains a few things. You gotta do what you gotta do, and sometimes that means killing a guy. Or two. I suppose you're right. Because it kind of just dawned on me that I'm part of this conversation now about what next to do, because Zovak's gonna be coming for us, so I think I have to show more strength so that they either trust my word or understand what I'm trying. I don't know. It works out in my head. I have to admit to myself that it makes sense. It's human nature to protect ourselves, to fight for our own survival. I guess that makes sense, in a way. You did what you had to do to survive. Yeah, exactly. Gotta say, I'm surprised you're taking this so well. Don't mistake my reaction for acceptance. Nothing about your situation is normal. Look, I'm not saying that it is, but the world ain't a fancy ride for all of us. Sometimes you gotta give up a piece of that humanity just to see the next sunrise. We stare at each other for a good few minutes, the whirring of the ship's engine the only sound to cut through the silence. It's a lot to process, and despite my response, I'm still conflicted about it. It's hard to believe nobody cares about the reality of the people of Cursa, Terranion. Had it truly been my family who made it acceptable to ignore this kind of suffering? Had it been my father? I need to ask you a question. Alright, but you only get one. Do you hate the Pegasus for what my father did? Why? You want to know what I think about Zovak offing them? Yes. I force myself not to wince at his lack of assembling, but I can't really fool myself into being surprised by Damon's bluntness anymore. Honestly, I couldn't care less if I tried. Your dad was a dick. Welcome to the club. I'm sure even you can't deny that. I know he was a bad leader, and you're right. We were never really close, but do you truly think he deserved to die? Did my whole family deserve it? Don't we all, I wonder? Don't get me wrong, Zovak's a dick in his own right too, and I know I'd work for the guy. I just don't have anything personal against him like the others do. I falter at the sudden admission, though it's more about how casual he makes working for Zovak sound than by the fact that he did that at all. So, man, this is becoming so twisted. But he's a monster. He killed my entire family. You don't really think Zovak did the grunt work, do you? He might have given the orders, but I'll bet you I bet you his hands are spotless. The man's a strategic genius and a master manipulator. Despite the things he's done, he knows having a certain reputation with the people is important. He's still a murderer, whether he kills by his own hands or not. I agree with you there. Never saw him harm an animal, though, so we got along well enough. I'd have stuck with him with my blade if I ever laid a finger on the street cats that hung around the base. Really? That's where you draw the line? You're damn right it is. I can't stop my eyebrows from rising at him. It both terrifies and astonishes me how little Damon seems to care about human life, but you put a pet in the mix and he goes feral. Ah, man, this just reminds me of, like, John Wick. His puppy was killed and just all hell broke loose. Among other things. What did you do for him anyway? You know, this and that. Which clearly means murder and any other sort of criminal activity I can imagine. I'll tell you more about it, but you'll have to promise you'll stop looking at me like I ran over your damn cat. Stay and listen. People are giving up their secrets. I can't stop now. Fine, I'm listening. I first ran into the guy when I left Cursa and was looking for a job. It's not like I cared who I worked for as long as they paid me. But then you left his gang. Nah, I never really joined it. I was more of a freelancer if it makes it easier to understand. Sure, he tried to sign me up, but I don't really appreciate being tied down, and the assignment he wanted for me sounded nothing short of boring. He ended up roping in some other guy, this weird redhead from Oh, shite. Oh, shite, you know Vex. Oh, hell. That kind of shocked me. He ended up roping in some other guy, this weird redhead from Goldus. I used to call him Carrot Head. We were pretty friendly for a while, but we lost contact eventually. A redhead who worked for Zovak. Damon couldn't possibly have known Vex before all this. Could he? Pushing the thought from my mind, I try to stay focused. There's still a lot I want to know, several questions unanswered, and I'm not sure how much he'd be willing to let me ask. If you don't like being tied down, how come you're now part of the A6 crew? Because I want to be. You know, you've passed the one question request a long time ago. You get one more. I got stuff to do. Pursing my lips, I weed out the most important from my pool of unanswered questions. There's only one more thing I need to know. One thing that's been bothering me since last night. Why did you want to sell me out? Because it's the obvious choice to make. He sighs and runs a hand through his hair before looking at me, his eyes narrowed. If you're hoping for an apology, stop. Having you around's been fun and all, but at the end of the day, we are the ones with a big-ass bounty on our heads, and I don't like having to work even harder than usual to keep these idiots alive. Or you, for that matter. Shipping your ass off to Zovak would be the easiest way out of this mess, but somehow Cal's grudge against the guy is bigger than logic, so... Cal may be an idiot sometimes, but I like the guy. Not to mention I owe him. You'd miss me if you sold me out. We're stuck. I'm gonna... all of these are I would just want to walk away and just be like, whatever. I don't even know where to go from here. I'm just gonna keep flirting with him. I kind of already, like, made it my mission. I kind of flirted with Cal. He kind of was, like, letting his guard down. And Damon would probably just miss me just to be able to have someone to dick with because I'm so naive that I don't think he can get away with this with anybody else. I'm well aware that Damon hasn't given up on turning me in out of the dark of the kindness of his heart, but I also get the feeling that he kind of likes having me around. Well, you should be glad the rest of them didn't let you sell me out. Damon quirks an eyebrow, watching me like a hawk as I step closer to him. You'd miss me terribly if I wasn't around anymore. Admit it. His face shifts into that crooked grin that has me questioning everything about the way I feel about him, and when I find him crowding me against the wall, one hand splayed against the panel beside my head, and it's impossible to keep my cool. The scent of him floods my nostrils, clean cotton with a hint of mint, sending my head spinning as his deep eyes pin me in place. There hasn't been a lot to miss, though, has there? Other than this game of cat and mouse you seem to enjoy playing, Des, all you've given me so far are words, and you already know I don't appreciate being tied down. Slender, cold fingers trail up my neck, stopping under my chin and tilting my head up as Damon leans in. I'd rather be the one tying the knots, if you get what I mean. His eyes are fixed on mine, the look he's giving me strangely serious, almost as if he wants to see how far I'm willing to let him push me. My heartbeat thrums in my ears, keeping me grounded. Damon is right. I like this game we play. I start it most of the time. I'm an instigator. It's like I have nothing better to do on this damn ship. But isn't he like my captain now, or like I'm under his command or something? If I remember right from the second chapter. One thing I know for sure is Damon doesn't play fair. If I ever win this game of ours, I'll know it's because he led me. Before I can muster a response, he winks at me and steps back, thoroughly enjoying the effects he knows he has on me. Jerk. I wonder if like Damon saw me flirting with someone else, or just completely starting to like trail with someone else, if it would piss him off. He would also probably kill me. Damon might not be the kindest of the crew, quite the opposite in fact, but in a strange way, talking things through with him has made me feel a little bit better. If that was his intention, or if he'd only been curious, I don't think I'll ever find out. But I'm glad for it, at least. Someday your brain will burn out if you keep overthinking everything like that. Try not to destroy anything while I'm gone, princess. He grins at me before he turns to leave, but something has me stopping him one last time. Hey, Damon, just one more thing. What now? Did you know who I was? Nah, but it makes sense a sheltered little thing like you would be a preggis. Funny how even when I'm joking, I turn out to be right. It's a struggle to keep from rolling my eyes again, but I try to hold the most regal expression I can muster, however well that turns out. I feel like I would have asked him if he knew Vex, because I wonder if that would open up a whole streamline, but then I'm wondering now if Damon was part of a mission or knew of the mission, since they were all so close. So now that has me questioning his sincerity towards me, or even towards this crew, if I'm going to be honest. I could have your head for mocking me. You'd have to catch me first. And I'm your boss around here, so don't make me put you on eternal cleaning duty or anything like that. Oh, just what are you making me do anyway? He shrugs, making a face as if he hadn't even bothered to give it any thought yet. I don't know. I'll let you know once I need you to do something. Until then, just stay out of trouble, as that's already pretty hard for you. Jerk. He doesn't reply, clicking his tongue as he walks away, in typical Damon fashion. I head in the opposite direction, trying to find something to do to keep my mind from being engulfed by unwanted thoughts. After a few turns, I find myself standing in front of the doors leading down to the docks, and a smile tugs at my lips when I hear a voice I'm familiar with coming from behind it. Bash is always welcome company, and I hope, praying to every force in the universe, that nothing will have changed since last night. When I find the engineer down in the docks, he's giving orders to a couple of strange beings who are working on repairing the ruined supply room. I waited for him to finish, and when he notices me hanging around the bottom of the stairs awkwardly, he gestures for me over to him. Opus junkers. He explains as I approach and waves at the pair, who are bickering between themselves in some unknown language as they work. When he whispers the next part, I lean closer to him to hear him better. As dumb as a pair of old boots, but they're handy in a cinch. He smiles, but it doesn't reach his eyes, and I find myself wondering what's really going through his head of his. Bash, about last night. We don't have to talk about it if you don't want to. I stop with a stare, not having expected a response that was quite so dismissive. No, I want to. I want you to know that royalty or not, I'm still the same old me. He grins, and this time I can tell it's genuine. Relief floods me floods through me at the sight, happy to see that some things haven't changed. I'm glad to hear it does. Bash cleans his hands on an old rag, smearing the fabric with oil before setting it down again. Once this hole is fixed, we'll be able to get out of here. Should only take a few more hours at the most. He throws a thumb behind him, and I look closer at the progress through the open door in the supply room. Where will we go? Bash crosses his arms over his chest, his nose crinkling as he thinks about it. That's what we still need to decide. We'll need a place to truly lay low, since Torino ended up being a bust. Perhaps one of the way stations between planets. There are a few that run by retired a good place to get info and pick up jobs. All I know is, with Zovak's guys on our trail, the sooner we leave the better. He hesitates as if there's something more he wants to say, but he doesn't know how. Zovak and the Chimera clan, they've really done a number on all of us. I told you when we first met that when you had a story worth telling, I'd tell you about this. He holds up his metal arm, a grim expression on his face, and I take a closer look at the wires and metal plates that complete the piece. It seems you've more than earned it. You did give me your word. This is going to be a very long episode. Because it seems like I'm just going to run into everybody, but I feel like if I cut people off, we're not going to have these conversations again. And I want to know about this crew. It seems important. Well, you did give me your word, after all. Bash grins, but the humor fades swiftly when the next words leave his mouth. I used to fight in the arenas here when I was growing up. In the smaller ones, they used real fighters. Humans mostly, a few kits and Arconians here and there. The higher-tiered arenas are where the rich spend all their money, building mecha to fight to the death. They're a sight to behold, truly, but the others, well, they're a means to an end. I was good at fighting. Really good. I spent every waking moment training myself to be better, addicted to the blood, sweat, and the fame of the arenas. I made a name for myself. I was unbeatable, until the day I got beat down so badly, I almost never recovered. The Chimera. I'm sure you heard all about them by now. I swallowed, my voice rough when I speak next. It seems they're responsible for most of what's happened to this crew. Like you wouldn't believe. Picking up a rough bolt from a stack of nearby crates, Bash balances it between his fingers before crushing it into the palm of his bionic hand, his focus fixed completely on that one small action. They got wind of my talents, even sat in on a few fights until eventually they tried to recruit me to their clan. I'd heard of them before. I knew of the kind of things they did to win their battles, and I wanted nothing to do with it. But it seemed, in their eyes, I had two options. Join them, or be put down as a threat. Bash shakes his head and blows out a heavy breath, his eyes glistening with memories long past. It was dark, late at night, and I had just come out of a fight. I beat the guy to within an inch of his life. That's what I was like in the arenas, you know? A freaking psychopath, and as cocky as anything. I get jumped on my way out of the arena. Half a dozen guys on right in the middle of the street. Shit, I gave it my all, but they were prepared. I took a dagger to the eye, another to the chest. That one pierced my lungs. They told me afterwards. No wonder it hurt like hell. So overreaching on this, but I wonder if people in this crew are a tad bit more connected than they are going to admit to, or that they even realize. Because a dagger to the eye and to the chest reminds me of Damon. They crushed the bones in my arm so bad that they were turned to splinters. It was never going to heal right, so the best thing to do was to get rid of it completely. I still remember what it felt like when they were done with me. I was dying. I wanted to die. I had nothing to live for anyway. My chest tightens. I can only imagine how Bash felt in that moment, and even the mere thought is enough to tear me up inside. And then what happened? An angel saved me, found me beaten to a bloody pulp right in the middle of that street and refused to let me go. Rona. An archangel. All of a sudden, the pieces click into place, and I finally realize who Bash had meant all along. Rona. That's right. Ray and her group patched me up and found a safe place for me to recover. I even asked her on a date when I finally woke up. Thought I owed her that much. He chuckles at the memory. My chest eases at the familiar sound. Her girlfriend wasn't having any of it, though. She sure put me in my place. I think the two of you would make a good couple. You seem like good friends. It sounds like you and Rona have been through a lot together. You must be good friends. Yeah, it's nice to have someone to think of as family when I never really had one. Luckily, I knew someone who could hook me up with new gear, synthetic skin too, to cover the marks those bastards left behind. Some people keep the scars, a reminder of where they come from, I suppose, but why would I keep the battle scars when I can have this perfection instead? He gestures to himself, and I roll my eyes, earning a chuckle from him. They did a good job. I turn my eyes over his body, noticing the absence of scars and marks, save for the calluses and the burns on his remaining hand. A mark of his trade, I'm sure. Well, they did a commendable job. I knew you'd think so. I roll my eyes at him as he laughs, glad to find the easy banter between us hasn't changed a bit. Have you decided what to do next, now that you know where you're from? I haven't decided anything, is what I meant to say, apart from the fact that if Zovek finds me alive, I'm done for. I'll be staying with the crew for the time being, is what I said instead, and Bash seems happy to hear it. It doesn't take long, however, for his face to fall. I know you never asked for my opinion, but I want to give it to you anyway. I've never had any love for our leaders. I've seen roaches who could run the planets, even the systems, better than the clowns who've already had a crack at it. No offense. None taken. I never had a voice. I never had anything, but you could have a voice if you wanted it. You could make decisions that mattered and change everything. It's a noble idea that I could be the one to have such an impact in the world, but an idea nonetheless. But at the same time, I could understand if you didn't want to. I mean, what has the world ever done for you, huh? It'd be easy enough to disappear, to start a new life somewhere, with someone new. Bash hangs his head in defeat as though he wished he never spoke at all. When it comes down to it, I can't tell you what to do, because I don't know, but it's not my choice to make. I appreciate your advice. You do have a voice. Take his hand. I feel like now I'm just gonna be flirting with everybody and not in the way of intention. You have a voice. Shut up. I hear you loud and clear. Your voice means something to me. His face softens immediately, and when he reaches for my hand, I let him pull me in closer. You know, Princess, you're unlike anyone I've ever... That... I wasn't expecting it to go that far that fast. My stomach tightens. The way he's looking at me is sending a chill straight down to my toes. I hope that's a good thing. It's a very good thing. My breath sticks in my throat, and I have to pull back before I get lost in a smile completely. He lets me go reluctantly, the ghost of a smile still tugging at his lips. Taking a couple of steps back, I give him a smile, feeling better than I have all day. I should let you get back to your work. Like you said, the sooner we can leave, the better. That's right, and the sooner I can get the captain off my back, which is always a bonus. With a knowing smile, I head back towards the stairs to head up to the main level. My mind is still racing when I leave the docks. Despite Bash being so refreshingly about himself, there have been others who aren't so thrilled by my situation, and it's raised 1,000 red flags in my mind. The crew all have varying opinions on the matter, and while it's important for me to hear them all, they haven't all been what I expected. And there's still one person I haven't had the chance to speak to, though the feeling that he's intentionally avoiding me grows stronger with each minute that passes. June, he'd be the last person to speak to. Ha! I was right! I can't stop myself from wondering what could possibly be going through his mind, and need to find out for sure. I don't think I'll be able to get a moment's rest if I don't. Traipsing through the corridors, I finally arrive outside what I believe to be his room and knock a few times on the metal door. The echoing sounds of heavy footsteps on the other side pulls me out of my reverie, and when the door slides open, June pauses, his hesitation made clear at the sight of me. From the way he looks at me, I half expect him to turn away and close the door, but instead he lets out a few mumbled words. Oh, you're here. I was looking for you. He doesn't reply straight away, instead schooling his expression to one of nothing. One that doesn't suit the warm, kind man who saved me in the midst of tragedy in the least. Oh. A chill runs down my arms, and I hold them against myself protectively, almost afraid to even meet his eyes. June says nothing, does nothing, except look at me with a mild distaste, and I can see now that I certainly haven't prepared myself for this in the least. I don't want it to matter to him who I am. The way I see it, it's just another piece of my past that I've managed to piece together, nothing more, but I'm afraid that's not my decision to make. June has had my back from the get-go, and despite the target that hangs over me like a neon sign, I can only hope that hasn't changed. Can we talk? Stealing my nerves as much as I possibly can, I take a deep breath and start talking. Can we talk, June? Sorry, Des, I'm a bit tired. Maybe later? Please, excuse me, Princess. My breath catches in my throat, and for a moment, that word is all I can hear echoing in my head, over and over like the beat of a pounding drum. Princess. Yeah. My eyes sting when he pulls away, and the air that settles on my skin is as cold as ice. He barely even looked at me. He didn't even try. I blink dumbly at the hand that reaches out to close the door, but I can't let him go like this. If he won't try, then I will. I can't choose my family or my title, and those things certainly don't change who I am. June, wait! My hand shoots to the door for him before he can shut me out, and his brows raise in surprise. Confront him. Screw that. So what's the big deal? You hate me now because of who I am, or do you just hate my family in general? Frustration boils inside me at his reaction, and his outright refusal to say anything at all. I can understand a hatred for my family. He wouldn't be the only one to feel that way, but I am not my father, and I certainly never shared his views on the world. Please, June, talk to me. He sighs in defeat, his shoulders slumped as if the weight of the world is crashing down on him. When he looks at me next, his eyes flare in what that almost terrifies me. I know you're not to blame, but I never had any affection for the Pegasus as a whole. The complete disregard King Furnus had for the people of Ciliat, the way he was more than willing to overlook anything as long as it was making him a pretty penny. The volume of his voice raises with each word, and he takes a moment to rein himself in, to pull back that leash he holds so tightly on himself. And I never saw any member of your fucking family lift a finger to change it. It's not true. My sister tried to change things, but was overruled every single time, though I don't dare voice this out loud. June's hands shake at his side, clenching into fists so tight his knuckles whiten by the second. Before I realize what I'm saying, my mouth already is open, my voice a hiss so low that I'm not even sure he can hear me. Are you glad they're dead, then? He falters at my question. I already have my answer. His silence speaks louder than his words ever could. A wave of nausea hits me, knowing if I were truly among the dead, he would never have batted an eyelid. He would never have known who I was, what my dreams were, that one day in another life I might have called him my friend. He wouldn't have known any of it. I back away slowly, crushed by this knowledge, and it's only when he shoots out to grab my arm and stop me that I blink the tears from my eyes and dare to look at him. Stop, Des. I didn't say a thing. You didn't have to. I pull my arm back from him, and guilt flashes over his face, but only for a moment before a stony mask is set back in place. I don't know the answer to your question. Violence is never the answer, and Zovac is certainly not a better choice or ruler, but... He stops, takes in a deep breath, and fixes me with a hard stare. I can't say I'm sad that Fenris is gone. I swallow hard around the lump in my throat, steeling myself against the blunt edge of his words. I know my father wasn't fit to rule. I'm not an idiot, but I ventured into the city enough times to know what people thought. I didn't say. But to be happy he's dead? I let my voice echo off the metal walls, not caring for a single moment that my anger is getting the best of me. How can we decide if someone deserves to live or die? June scoffs, a dark, deliberate sound, and the gesture catches me completely off guard. You think I care about Goldus? Damn! The dark growl of his voice rumbles through me, and it takes all I have not to let myself be unnerved by the raw fury I see behind his eyes. Goldus was paradise compared to what I had. I would have given anything to have lived even in their bronze district, no matter how terrible Cal makes it out to be. I don't know how much Damon has told you of his home, or what you've heard, because nobody ever talks about Cursa. His nostrils flare wide, anger rolling off him in waves that make my mouth go dry. You know why? Because it was abandoned. The Council of Iron gave up on it because the Crown Council and the King deemed it worthless. They left it to be torn apart by the gangs, and they couldn't care less. You've seen Terranium heading down the same road. Kim is gone. And Orion? His voice trembles when he mentions Orion, and finally he pauses. When his eyes slice to mine, I could swear a flash of green streaks through them, but when I look closer, all I see is that unfathomable gray. Everything is wrong with Orion. Everything. Let's talk about the mines for a second, shall we, princess? How by being royal decree, anyone who falls out of line doesn't pay their taxes or just outright looks at some noble the wrong way gets sent there. And you know what's worse? Nobody survives that place. June, No, you don't get to talk. Not until you listen. I recoil from the brunt of anger, but I do as he says. Countless lives lost just to mine this substance, something powerful and dangerous that should never have been messed with in the first place. And the labs, do you have any idea of what goes on in those labs, the things they do in the name of progress? Let him speak. I say nothing, as it's the first time I've heard anything about labs on Orion. I heard the mines were brutal, but I couldn't possibly imagine anything worse. I should have known. Why didn't I? Experiments. He spits it out finally, his eyes dark and filled to the brim with the remnants of old pain. Suddenly I understand his anger a little better, though I dread to find out how he knows so much about these places. Human trials, Des. They strip their test subjects of all humanity, of any decency, and use them to create new weapons, new drugs, anything that will turn a profit for the crown. Anything. They say the labs are worse than the mines. Better to die with a sane mind and a poisoned lung than to waste away with needles in your veins and your mind fractured. The scientists there have no limits to what they need to do to get what they want. They don't care about anything other than themselves. All in the name of progress. My parents, my brother. June's voice falters at that, trembling fingers fidgeting with the bracelet on his right wrist. His eyes glisten with unshed tears as he's dragged into what I can only assume are his own memories. Terrifying memories. My chest aches at the picture he just painted for me. So much suffering, so much pain. This is horrible. I don't know what to say. I don't think there's anything I could say. Neither of us speaks for a long while, silence settling around us like dust. His parents, his brother. What could have happened to them? It doesn't look like June is ready to talk about that, but I can't help but wonder. I can't help but to give in to the weight that settles on my chest, to feel guilty for my family's role in this. For my father's. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Des. I know it's not your fault. I know you have nothing to do with that. I don't support Zovac in the least, but it's hard for me to separate you from the Pegasus I knew. That is a very valid point. But it's such a stab to the heart, dude. So, our relationship is going to be... Is he holding a gun in his hand? I just kind of looked down. But it sucks because it's this is really going to ruin our relationship now. June runs a hand over his face, struggling with something deep and dark within himself. The pain that drips from his words is enough to have me paying attention, dreading the worst. It might be best you stay away from me. At least for now. I don't want to do anything I might regret. Whoa. Damn. I mean, even Damon, who would willingly cut my throat, is still willing to dick with me and have me work for him. June, who completely, discovered me and brought me on the ship, basically got me to safety. He's telling me to stay away from him. Oh, that hurts. That hurts in so many deep, dark ways. Oh my god. Okay. He backs up like a wounded animal forced into a corner. It's obvious he's still hurting from whatever happened to him on Orion, and while I want to know what it was, I can't say that now is the best time to find out. Gets closer. I'm sorry. Don't flirt with him, because he might just shoot me in the frickin' head. I'm sorry for whatever you've been through. Everything he's told me is messed up, but he's certainly not the only one who's suffering. I know it's not going to change anything, but for what it's worth, I am sorry. You know it's not your fault, and you should apologize. Still, you're always kind to me, June. You deserve an apology. You deserve a whole lot more than that. And besides, my voice cracks, and it hits me just how hard it is to actually put my thoughts into the words that come out of my mouth next. Don't say anything fucked up. Don't say anything stupid. Let's just for a moment pretend that this dude might actually blow our head off. For a moment. It's not like any other Pegasus could apologize to you now. Now that they're dead. I'm sorry, Des. We stare at each other for a while. Our apologies hang in the air around us. Wishful words trying to soothe a world of hurt neither of us seems willing to deal with right now. It's so pathetic, I let out a low chuckle, earning a smile from June in return. He probably thinks I'm losing my mind, but really? How wrong is he? Hello, fellow mercenaries. Ayami's voice blasting through the comm snaps us out of our bubble. I come bearing a message from our dearest captain. She clears her throat exaggeratedly, and June rolls his eyes with a soft look with him. He is definitely used to her wild ways by now. Get your asses to the bridge now. This is urgent. Oh, and he says pretty please. Over and out. As she turns off the comms, I hear Cole snapping at her in the background, and his smile tilts. His smile tilts my lips at the sound. At least some things never change. We should get going. Don't want to leave those two alone long enough for a fight to break out. Agreed. Sharing a smile, we set off to the bridge in a silence that's more awkward than I'd like to admit. So June's probably doing his best to not be totally pissed at me, but it seems like he just needs space from, me, my affiliations, and everything. I get it. Our conversation seems to have had brought unpleasant thoughts to the both of us. Siblings, Marissa. Which is sad because, if you were flirting with him in the beginning and all this, he would probably... I don't know. I don't know how this all changes, and it's so sad because I would love to play through every single option, but oh my god, this would take forever. Underground now, too many eyes around, far too dangerous for Appa to stand out. Oppa's voice is clear and familiar when we enter the bridge, and I look around to find the rest of the crew already gathered around the middle of the bridge, Cal and Damon each on one side of what I assume to be Oppa. Hi. Oh my god, it's virtual. The crew surrounds Oppa in hologram form, and June quickly leaves my side to join Rona and Cal on the other side of the room. It's good to hear you're safe, at least. I apologize if our presence here has hindered your operations. Thank you for reaching out. No problems at all. The Amarith crew are good customers and friends, but would never dream to jeopardize our relationship. Still, I took out the group of guards that were on our trail. Have you seen any others? Not yet, no, but the commotion. Damon rolls his eyes, giving the Arkans a dry look. That was hardly a fight. He mumbles under his breath as he runs a clear cloth over his dagger, throwing Cal a grin when the other gives him a glare. It was enough to draw attention, see? Oppa got a tip they were sending another ship to investigate, so Oppa hid somewhere safe until they leave again. And so should you, yes, especially with your new friend. Cal frowns at the remark, but keeps his cool nonetheless. We can't just yet. We need a CD to get away safely, and we need your help to get it. Oppa's scared expression shifts slowly into one they had when they tried to buy me or sell the pieces from an outrageous amount for the crew. Before they or Cal have the chance to say their piece, Damon already has his knife pointed right in the middle of the Carcani's eyes, and I'm assuming they can see it because the shock on their face is real, despite the hologram. Don't F with us, Oppa. You're hidden, but I know very well where you are, and I wouldn't mind taking a detour before we leave. Do I make myself clear? The captain gives a short nod at his second command, apparently grateful for the intervention, keeping him from having to waste any more of his time. The Arknos swallow in vain, their forked tongue trembling slightly outside of their mouth, but Oppa ends up nodding in agreement eventually, to which Damon takes back his dagger to continue casually polishing it. There's no way of getting a CD here in Tyrian now. The next shipment isn't due until the next new moon. That's a week from now. We don't have the luxury of being able to wait. Yes, I know. I can swear Oppa's eyes were fixed on me as they said that, and I wonder if all along they knew who I truly am. I wouldn't have doubted they did for a second. Luckily for the Avalanche crew, I know where one is. You need to go there yourself, but the supplier will be expecting you. Fine, tell us where we need to go. Oh shit. Cursa, right next door and out of the way of any patrols that might come looking for you, it is. Yeah, this is completely unsatisfactory to the entire crew at this point. The mood on the bridge shifts considerably at Appa's words, and I find myself to be almost overwhelmed at the change. But Khmer stronghold nonetheless. Cal looks bothered by the idea, as if some things he's rather avoid entirely. June and Rona next to him look equally concerned about our apparent next destination. On the other hand, Damon looks like he just spotted prey he's been hunting for eons and is preparing to pounce. It's his home planet, and yet there isn't an inch of joy in his expression, only stark determination. Aya and Bash next to him seemed concerned, though more for Damon than about our destination. Yeah, 'cause it's dangerous. I'll send the details of the contact, and you let her know Appa sent you, yes? Her? Huh, I wonder. Thank you, Oppa. We'll stay in touch. The captains all but hang up on the Arkans and turning to Bash and Ayami, giving his order, sending Bash off to the engine room to make sure they're ready to go and telling Aya to sit the course. It would seem he wants to leave as soon as possible to get this ordeal over and done with. I'm assuming that we're going to meet Damon's little friend that taught him everything. The second in command approaches me, his steps light and precise, a twisted smile on his face. Oh, this will be so much fun. Obviously, it's about time you earn your dues, but given your penchant for wandering on your own, don't think we'll be able to let you roam around freely this time, so I guess we'll have to babysit. He turned serious after verbally jabbing at me, pinning me to the spot with a cold, calculated stare. This isn't going to be a fun ride. Don't think Tyrion was the worst Selena had to offer. Don't let your guard down even when we get there. But you said it will be fun. A stupid remark, I realized. Perhaps the weight of it all finally getting to me and I'm losing it. Perhaps I just want to see how serious he is about Cursa being, well, cursed. For me, it will. After all, I'm going home. Something about the way he says it makes me want to hole up in my room and stay there until we're done. But I can't. I won't. I'll make myself useful, and this time, I will not go off on my own. The captain's deep voice is amplified, echoing around the room and the rest of the ship as he speaks into a comm device from the co-pilot's seat. Everyone to your stations. We're heading to Cursa. Alright guys, so that was the end of episode 3. We are going to move into episode 4 in the next video. That was a very long episode. Holy crap, that was almost 2 hours, I think? Almost 2 full hours. Oh, I have so many thoughts. So, okay, so Damon and Vex at some point knew each other. Damon may know more about Zovek's takeover than he's willing to let on, but I'm not exactly sure if he was 100% sure I was a princess. Now, Oppa seems to know I probably was the princess, so that we have that. Vex is now pretending that we were not friends whatsoever, and he was using me to basically drop my entire family. But he seems to have a soft spot for my oldest sister and believes that she could have been a better queen. June is so pissed off with my family and everything that's happened that he kind of wants me to stay away from him. Bash seems pretty cool and content and willing to be friends with me. Ayami and Rona seem like they still want to be friends with me, and Cal seems like he still wants to be close to me. So, not bad, and it seems like I got some really good backstory on pretty much everybody. Kind of my family's intervention with how it worked out with all of them, so I mean, that's good. I am glad to get that information, so that was nice. Oh my god, this episode was a roller coaster. I mean, episode 1 and 2 were good. I'm not putting that to shame. Episode 3 totally blew the lid on everything. And now I'm wondering if it would have been better to never have said anything at all about who I was. But I guess my fear was that they would find out or I'd put them in more danger. Because now we're taking precautionary steps against Zovek and against Vex, because I'm assuming that's the crew that's probably out there hunting everyone down. So at least I'm giving us a good fighting chance to not get caught by the guard, so. You guys, if you have listened to this video this long, you are an absolute OG. I just, virtually, I'm giving you a gold star and like a banana sticker. Because holy crap, that was a wild ride. But oof, leave down in the comments below what you think of all of this. Am I on the right track? Do you guys have like a different thought of what is happening? I'm so excited now to get into chapter 4, and I definitely need to check on Ichio to see if more chapters have been released, because then I'll just have to update this, like what I already have. I shouldn't lose progress. I should be okay. Oh my god, my head is spinning. So you guys had to listen to me cough, drink water. I have this massive bottle of water sitting next to my desk. Yeah, this is psychotic. I love it. But anyway, guys, if you are already subscribed to my channel and you've made it this far, Thank you so much. Your support truly means everything. I love hearing from you guys. I love that you are helping the channel grow. It's amazing. And I know we've talked about, you know, when we hit 1,000 subscribers, I want to show you my dog. I want to maybe talk about why I started this channel, just everything, you know. And as we play more video games, I'll have these little story times with you guys as well, because I want to share that stuff with you. And if you are new to my channel and you've made it this far, you also get a banana sticker and a gold star sticker, because wow, this was wild. I really hope you guys enjoyed this style game, the storytelling. I hope you guys got really involved, because I know I did. And I hope you'll subscribe to my channel, because it would make me so happy to have you here, and it would be enjoyable. It'll be fun. I hope you've checked out other videos. Please leave comments down below too. I love to hear from you. But until next time, guys, please take care of yourselves. Know I love you, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye.